This novel consists of a literature review I wrote while getting my Master of Arts in Management degree at Doane University, graduating with a 3.998 GPA in December 2011. How Real is Telepathy and ESP? Review of Literature. Leonard G. Chernick, Doane University, Master of Arts in Management, MAM program, Foundations of Research Business. May 18, 2009. How Real is Telepathy and ESP? Introduction. The world is searching to find out if telepathy and ESP, extrasensory perception, is real. Based upon the amount of research that has been conducted in this area of interest, there is good possibility telepathy is a real phenomenon. Additional research in other similar areas of study indicate differing degrees of confirmation of telepathy and ESP. Some studies showed indications that telepathy and ESP is more than mere chance. Other studies indicate that based on statistical probability, the probability of telepathy and ESP's existence was equal to that of chance. Brown and Sheldrake, 2001, surveyed 200 people. The researchers found that 3/4, 78%, of the people surveyed said that they had telephoned someone who said they were just thinking about telephoning them. Besides this response to telephone calls, 45% of those surveyed said they experienced other situations that seemed to involve telepathy. A quarter of these people, 22%, said that their seemingly telepathic experiences happened often. These surveys were conducted in California and indicate there is a good percentage of chance that telepathy and ESP does exist. If these surveys are reliable, they provide evidence to support the reality of telepathy and ESP. Sheldrake and Smart, 2003, conducted more experiments that indicated a high percentage of chance that telepathy and ESP may occur. They conducted 271 experiments, all videotaped to eliminate the possibility of cheating. Participants in telephony videotaped experiments gave significant, repeatable results. When callers were known, there was a 61% success rate in predicting the caller and a 41% success rate in predicting among unfamiliar callers. The experiment's results are additional evidence to support the reality of telepathy and ESP. These experiments occurred in the everyday environment of anticipation and prediction of contacts by phone calling. Distance between telephone callers was not a factor and more than mere chance. Sheldrake and Smart in the Press, July 2003, described the results of 570 trials involving 63 participants. Findings showed that the average success rate was 40%, which is hugely significant statistically. Distance between callers was not a factor in that during these trials the callers were miles apart, and in some cases, thousands of miles apart. The results would imply that the participants' above chance success rate was a result of telepathy from the callers. Smith, 2005, discusses Sheldrake's theory. Sheldrake believes such phenomena are examples of seventh sense. Sheldrake used the term seventh sense since the more traditional sixth sense is now more commonly used in the scientific community to refer to certain sensory activities found in the animal kingdom but not among humans. There has also been research indicating that owners and their pets have a telepathic connections in cases where the pet knows when the owner is coming home, even at large distances between the owner and the pet. Sheldrake has said that in research by Sir Randolph Peters, a mentally retarded child senses things through its mother even when miles apart. The researcher theorized that this may be due to the intense bond between the mother and child. This bond may have developed because it was necessary for the child's survival. This literature review will focus on areas confirming or contradicting that telepathy and ESP are real phenomena. In the end, it will present conclusions on information about how real is telepathy and ESP. This review will discuss the following themes: the reality of telepathy, the relationship to ESP, the psi phenomena, brainwave patterns that can be measured and read with sensors and MRI, the Gans field experiments, which are experiments that measure ESP among test subjects. Reality of telepathy. Brown and Sheldrake, 2001, conducted a survey in California on the anticipation of telephone calls. 200 random people were surveyed in the Santa Cruz County, California. Data was collected by means of telephone surveys. 200 people participated, 78 men and 122 women. 78% telephoned someone who said they were thinking about them. In the survey, 47% also knew who was calling them before answering the phone. 68% said they thought of someone who later telephoned that day. Some of these could have been chance experiences, and others might have depended on telepathy. 2 previous surveys in London and Greater Manchester, England, indicate this experience happens quite frequently. The surveys are just another means of evaluating telepathy. Sheldrake and Smart, 2003, videotaped experiments on telephone telepathy. Participants were videotaped during an experimental period for 4 potential callers, with one selected randomly. 271 trials were conducted. The actual experiment used telephone anticipation instead of just survey. Random chance would indicate 25% correct responses. The study of 271 total trials indicated 45% correct guesses. With familiar callers, there was a 61% success rate. Videotaping trials reduced chances of cheating, if not making it virtually impossible. There was a research report rebuttal written by the editor, 2003, of the journal that commented on Rupert Sheldrake's and Pam Smart's paper. Videotaped experiments on telephone telepathy. The letter to the editor stated that data presented from experiments on telephone telepathy may be in error. In one of the specific analyses, Sheldrake reported a significantly different hit rate depending on whether the subjects were called by familiar or unfamiliar callers. The differences are reported in report to be very significant statistically, and according to Sheldrake, the significant difference supports an interpretation in terms of telepathy. The letter to the editor stated that they disagreed with the analysis and the conclusion. They claimed that Sheldrake's conclusion was based on a statistical unsatisfactory procedure. The letter to the editor did comment that their critique applied only to the comparison of familiar and unfamiliar callers. The overall hit rate of the entire experiment remains untouched by their reanalysis. Sheldrake and Smart, July 2003, described the results of 570 trials involving 63 participants. The participants were recruited through advertisements in a part-time work section of newspapers or through a recruitment website. These trials were a confirmation test for earlier studies. The significance is these trials were further documentation of the reality of telepathy. The findings were reported in correct determination of the random phone caller chosen between 4 potential callers. The overall success rate in caller determination was 40%. This was hugely significant since it was above the 25% success rate expected based upon chance or random guessing. The emotional closeness of callers seemed to be more important than physical proximity. Smith, 2005, wrote an article on telepathy research. Smith commented that far from being a cranky relic of pre-enlightened Dark Age, the belief in telepathy would seem to be confirmed by contemporary science. Smith further commented in that telepathy might even help secure the planet's survival. Smith puts together a good summary on telepathic research and insights into Sheldrake's work and Sheldrake's profession at Cambridge. This article lists Sheldrake's website, www.sheldrake.org. This general presentation on topics related to the reality of telepathy was a good overview, providing research direction and finding proof for the reality of telepathy. Vassie, 2004, conducted a study of telepathy by classical conditioning. Experiments were conducted detecting telepathy by classical conditioning using a mild electric shock. The stimulus was a telepathic message, and the unconditional response was a sudden rise in the skin conductance. 50 sessions of 10 electric shocks were conducted. Using conditioning, assuming telepathy involves yet unidentified physiological process in the brain. Earlier studies were conducted in 1997 and 1978. There were significant positive results in 50 runs. A replication study showed that the first experiment could not be replicated, thus raising questions about the study. Skeptic, 2001, magazine showed results of a survey conducted on June 8, 2001 by the Gallup News Service poll, showing paranormal beliefs are on the rise. 1,012 adults 18 years old or older were surveyed. Conducted May 10th through 14th, 2001, with a 95% confidence level. 18 to 29-year-olds are more likely to believe in telepathy and clairvoyance. People aged 30 and older had different beliefs. Religious beliefs are a factor. Survey results show that in telepathy, 36% believed, 26% were not sure, and 35% don't believe. In two surveys on the belief in telepathy, results showed that 36% believe in 2001. In a survey in 1990, 36%. These results show that there was a 0% change in between the two studies. Besides telepathy, other paranormal beliefs were studied, but belief in telepathy had not changed over time. Sheldrake and Smart, 2005, investigated possible telepathic communication in connection with emails. Trials were conducted with 4 potential emailers, one of whom was selected at random by the experimenter. 1 minute before prearranged time at which the email was to be sent, the participant guessed who would send it. 50 participants, 29 women and 21 men, were recruited through an employment website. 552 trials were conducted. The results of 235 guesses, 43%, were hits. This is significantly above the chance expectation of 25%. Further tests with 5 participants, 4 women, 1 man, and ages 16 to 29 were videotaped continuously. On the film trials, the 64 hits of 137 trials, or 47%, were significantly above chance than expected by chance. Sheldrake, Goodwin, and Rockwell, 2004, carried out experiments in an attempt to replicate the telephone telepathy phenomenon for a television show called Are You Telepathic?, made by 2020 Productions and broadcast in the UK on Channel 5 television on June 19, 2003. The participant and her 4 callers were sisters, who had for years worked together in a girl band, the Nolan Sisters, popular in the UK in the 1980s. In most of the trials, the callers were in different locations from each other and were not filmed. However, in one previous experiment, all 4 callers were in the same locations, and the callers as well as the participant were filmed continuously. The test, carried out in Wakefield, Yorkshire, placed the participant 1.5 kilometers away from the 4 callers. One of the sisters guessed correctly in 8 of the 17 trials, 47%. Sheldrake concludes that the results support the hypothesis of telepathic communication. Of course, further replications will be needed, and in future tests, it would be desirable to rule out the possibility of cheating using mobile phones. Wisner, 2005, presented 5 stories about twins that have similar thoughts, giving some proof to the reality of telepathy. The article stated that not all identical twins share a connection. This paper presents an example of 5 stories in which twins seem to be connected mentally in various ways. This is a general presentation of stories about identical twins, providing examples where twins seem to have a connection that cannot be explained by today's society's view of what would be classed as a normal relationship. Sheldrake, 2006, used a telephone survey method to question nursing mothers about their reaction to when their baby needed them. Some nursing mothers claim that when they are away from their babies, they often knew when their baby needed them because their milk lets down. Some mothers were convinced that their response is telepathic. Sheldrake, in order to find out more about this phenomenon, surveyed 100 mothers who had recently had babies and asked a series of questions about their experiences when breastfeeding. 62% had experienced milk letdown when away from their babies. 16% had noticed that this seemed to coincide with their baby needing them. Most of these women had breastfed their baby for more than 6 months. In addition, 3 women said they had felt there was something wrong with their baby when they were away from home and found that it was indeed in distress because of a fall or other accident. 5 women commented they often woke up shortly before their baby needed them in the night. These surveys used babies and mothers in another way of evaluating telepathy. Apart from the phenomenon of milk letdown, in question 10 of all mothers in this survey were asked, while you were away from your baby, have you ever had a strong sense that your baby needs you, other than through your milk letting down? 31 out of 100 answered yes to this question. Most of these women said in response to a previous question that this may be a matter of general anxiety or intuition. Several women commented that their anxiety was more related to their own worries than their baby's needs. However, 3 women reported that they felt something was wrong with their baby and either telephoned home or went to the baby and found it was in distress because of a fall or other accident. 5 women commented they often woke up shortly before the baby needed them in the night. Sheldrake, 2005, presented various views based upon different people staring at other people or sensing that they were being stared at. Sheldrake presented different theories of how non-visual staring can mentally be detected. Sheldrake theorized that features of the perceptual field may have implications for the understanding of morphic fields. The morphic fields may be related to patterns of activity of the electromagnetic fields of the brain, but also may be separable from other electromagnetic fields. The brain can project virtual images in 3 dimensions with the basis of these patterns being electromagnetic activity. The morphic fields may interact with the patterns of electromagnetic activity not only through the eyes, but elsewhere in the brain. This electromagnetic activity in an individual brain may be picked up by other people. Sheldrake and Smart, 2000, conducted videotaped experiments and observations on 1 dog and 1 owner. They videotaped the dog at a window during the owner's absence and when the owner was returning home. Various observations of the dog's behavior were conducted in controlled environment and different environments. These experiments were unique because the tests involved an animal. This presents the possibility that animals, and not only humans, may have telepathic or ESP abilities. The test dog was far more at the window waiting when the owner was on her way home than when she was not on her way home. The results were displayed in tables and graphs. Replication experiment showed similar results. The suggestion was made that the dog was detecting the owner's intention to come home. The testing removed the chance that anticipation of the owner's return was based on time of day or consistent return times. Sheldrake and Morgan, 2003, conducted trials with 1 parrot and 1 owner. 147 2-minute trials using videotaped equipment in the experiment with parrot and owner placed in different rooms. The owner would open up an envelope with a word that the parrot knew how to say. 71 trials showed positive results of the parrot saying the word corresponding to the picture that the owner looked at in the other room. Findings were consistent with the hypothesis that the parrot was responding telepathically to the owner's mental activity. This study was unique in it used a parrot in the experiments. Sheldrake, 2000, noted the most common kinds of seemingly telepathic responses are the anticipation by dogs and cats of their owners coming home. The animals may also anticipate the owner's intention of going away. Also, they may anticipate the owner getting ready to feed them. Sheldrake believes that there is much potential for further research on animal telepathy. Sheldrake theorizes that if the domestic animals are telepathic with their human owners, then there is possibility that the animals are telepathic with each other. This may play an important part in the wild. The newsletter discourse shed some light on telepathy and ESP in the animal world, theorizing that telepathy from people to animals usually occurs only when there are close emotional bonds. Emotional bonds may also be an important factor in human telepathy. Sheldrake, law lore attorney, conducted a telephone survey on perceptive pets. The survey was conducted in London by telephone, with the intent to find out how many pet owners had observed seemingly telepathic abilities in their pets. 52% of dog owners claimed that their animal knew in advance when a member of the household was on the way home, compared to 24% of cat owners. Of the animals that reacted, 21% of dogs and 19% of cats were said to do so more than 10 minutes before the person returned. 73% of dog owners and 52% of cat owners said that their pets knew when the owners were going out before they showed any signs of doing so. 43% of dog owners and 41% of cat owners said their pets responded to their thoughts or silent commands. And 57% of dog owners and 37% of cat owners said their pets were sometimes telepathic with them. 46% of people with pets now and 37% of people without pets now said that they had known pets in the past that were telepathic. 39% of those with pets now and 38% of those currently without pets said they themselves had had psychic experiences. But significantly fewer of those who had never kept pets had had psychic experiences themselves. The results in this survey are compared to two similar surveys in Northwest England and in California. The general pattern was remarkably similar in these three very different locations and shows that seemingly telepathic abilities in pets are common. In all locations, dogs were more responsive than cats to their owners' thoughts and intentions. Results based on this survey are subject to error since it involves the perception of the pet owners without thorough experimental trials to prove claims. Thomas and Fletcher, 2003, conducted tests on the mind reading accuracy in intimate relationships. The study tested for the moderating effects of the judge, target, and relationship on mind reading accuracy during intimate problem solving interactions. The study used a video review procedure. Multiple perceivers judge multiple targets at different levels of acquaintanceship, dating partners versus friends versus strangers. The study also investigated the role of three relationship level predictors of mind reading accuracy for dating couples and friends: relationship satisfaction, closeness, and prior disclosure about the problems discussed. Their conclusions were that by systematically examining the relationship between the perceiver and the target, the study was able to disentangle the contributions made by the relationship, the target, and the judge in terms of mind reading accuracy. It was found that all three moderators played a role. It was mentioned that the nature of the relationship between the judge and the target exerted the most profound effect. This moderated the influence of the target and the judge in both expected and unexpected ways. This was a unique study in that it evaluated intimate relationships in a documented study. An important aspect of this study was the finding that mind reading accuracy does not reach a plateau at a certain level of friendship, but goes up a notch in the context of intimate romantic relationships. The study does demonstrate acquaintanceship effects in both mind reading and personality domains. DeGraff and Hootkeeper, 2004, evaluated emotional awareness with tests on individuals who have experienced past emotional trauma. 12 subjects were asked to guess the top down sequence of symbols in an open deck of 100 Zener cards. 4 cases were studied. The researchers' assumption in this experiment was that a strong unconscious wish or intentionality to express the emotions connected with certain pictures could cause relatively more correspondence with Zener cards, ZTs, or, in fact, their simulations at certain sensitive spots. The Zener targets were located at 12 sensitive spots, i.e., the exact locations of the 12 pictures. Using the 12 pictures also showed that subjects with the higher trauma scores were able to pick the 12 pictures out, and the pictures attracted considerably more displacements of all types than the pictures which the subject had left aside in the initial review. The study suggested that these findings could be a result of conscious choice between the pictures mentioned and pictures not mentioned. This may have mirrored the emotional significance that the subject had also unconsciously bestowed to the 12 pictures. This could explain the general lack of significant correlations between trauma scores and displacement types for pictures not mentioned. These tests were a further evaluation in a different way of relating telepathy to emotion. Murray, Howard, Wild, Fez, and Simons Moore, 2007. Tested for telepathy using an immersive virtual environment. They say there are a number of advantages over Ganfeld's work using static or dynamic stimuli or immersive virtual environment. 200 males, 112 females were tested in pairs at the University of Manchester. The experimenters used computer technology to set up an immersive virtual reality environment. This was a new type of computerized testing which they felt was superior to the Ganfeld standard computerized test procedures. The study did not find results to support the psi hypothesis. The results could be used to argue for the non-existence of psi. The Ganfeld tests last for 2 hours, and these tests lasted for 7 minutes. The difference could be criticism for using too short of a time. This too short of test time and test procedures may have resulted in poor results. Moss and Gangrelli, 1967, conducted a controlled experiment on telepathy and emotional stimuli. The study was an attempt to stimulate in some small measure the strong effects which appear to accompany spontaneous telepathic events. The test used stimuli, and after each stimulus episode, the participants spoke their reactions, which were recorded verbatim. After a suitable delay between tests, a second emotional episode was presented. The study conducted in a controlled laboratory indicates that something like telepathy occurs between two people, isolated from each other. When the transmitter is emotionally aroused and the receiver is lying down, relaxed. The results showed that 7 out of 12 professional psychologists and psychiatrists matched the protocols of 50 experimental TR teams, which is significantly better than that of chance expectation. However, it was found that under 2 controlled conditions involving 13 and 10 TR teams, respectively, only one of the same 12 judges matched in these tests, which is better than chance. This study was included because it was one of the forerunners to current studies on telepathy and emotion. It, however, showed results that indicated further study was necessary because at that time telepathy was considered an abnormal phenomenon that most researchers dismissed as coincidence. Relationship to ESP. Tressold and Brett, 2007, studied ESP with subjects under hypnosis. 12 volunteers, 7 males and 5 females, who attended Author Center were tested. 2 types of hypnotic induction were used. Those tested used simple gambling tasks. The author's use of hypnosis to evaluate ESP was compared to other hypnosis studies. The results used standard statistical comparisons. 33% of correct hits were recorded in the first session. 24% correct hits were recorded in the second session. The results indicated that people in a hypnotic state may be more conducive to psi phenomena. The conclusion was that further study was needed. Caldwell, Schroeder, and Slayton, 2000, stated that there was evidence to suggest that individuals not only believe in their ability to detect an unseen gaze, but may actually be able to do so. 12 volunteers were recruited on the basis of their beliefs in ESP. The volunteers were placed in closed rooms with one-way mirrors. The responses were recorded on a computer. The median age was 24, with 7 men and 5 women tested who were in the 19 to 49-year-old range. This test was significant because selection of the volunteers was based on their belief in ESP. The test results showed little support for the staring detection effect on non-feedback trials. In feedback trials, the response bias was present. The 2 experiments conducted showed that no proof that staring could be detected. The authors cited Sheldrake 1994 in this research paper. Sheldrake suggested the effect is difficult to obtain in artificial conditions, presumably as found in this research study. Wiseman and Greening, 2002, conducted a mass participation experiment where participants were asked to complete an ESP task that involved them guessing the outcome of 4 random electronic coin tosses. All data was stored on computers. The researchers aimed to help resolve ESP debate by devising a novel procedure for carrying out large-scale forced-choice ESP experiment. My Machine consisted of computer-based video clips related to coin tosses. The final database contained 27,856 participants, 250,000 data points with 139,043 data points from 5 question tests and 110,959 data points from ESP trials. The overall outcome showed results did not differ from that of chance, and all of the internal analyses were not significant. The My Machine took place in noisy public spaces and not in quiet laboratory surroundings. The study may have failed because forced choice ESP may not exist. Owens and Pittman, 2004, conducted a study with the aim to manipulate expectations or attitudes before and during a test of ESP. 31 student volunteers at the University of Glamorgan were used in tests consisting of 6 males and 25 females. They were randomly assigned to 4 conditions. Participants' ages were between 18 and 47, with a mean of 25. Participants were tested individually by one experimenter. Some were given a placebo, stating it enhanced ESP abilities, and tested without a placebo. The experiment used the Australian sheep-goat scale, a computerized test. Participants asked how they were going to test for ESP before giving out a possible 25 correct guesses selected from 5 possible targets. Experiment expected to test 2 connected hypotheses. First, the ESP performance would be positively affected by the manipulation expectants prior and during tests, and second, that this result would be most evident with the indecisive group who did not believe in ESP. 2 experiments were conducted, with both experiments showing that ESP performance was highest with placebo or high false expectations. There was a possible relationship to the self-efficacy perspective, which increased expectance to the degree of participant success in scoring high in ESP. Psi phenomena. Psi denotes anomalous process of information or energy transfer. These processes may be telepathy or other forms of extrasensory perception. The term is used in relation to all currently unexplained phenomena in physical or biological mechanisms. Bim and Hanatorn, retrieved 2009. Does psi exist? According to a survey conducted by researchers, most academic psychologists does not think so. 1,100 college professors in the United States surveyed found that 55% of the natural scientists, 66% of social scientists, and 77% of academics in the arts, humanities, and education believe that ESP is either an established fact or a likely possibility. A comparable to psychologists was that only 34% thought it was possible. An equal number of psychologists believe that ESP is an impossibility, a view expressed by only 2% of all other respondents. The study goes on to list various aspects of areas of psi research. Alexander and Broughton, 2001, developed an automated testing system using equipment called Otto Gansfeld H, which uses the same hardware and software as that used to control Gansfeld experiments as that used to accumulate the raw data files by psychophysical research laboratories that closed in 1989. Right brain hemisphere dominance was measured by a procedure called CLB. The results were then related to the Gansfeld procedure. The scoring was related to the direct hit method. Participation score in right hemisphere dominance, as measured by the CLB, scored significantly more direct hits in the Otto Gansfeld than those with left cerebral hemisphere dominance. There was no conclusive evidence of brain and psi phenomena. However, the part of the brain that has potential for further psi phenomena was identified, which makes this study significant. Carpenter, 2008, summarizes research that has been directed toward the psi phenomena. Carpenter presents information and provides an overview of psi theory, summary of researchers conducting tests, and general findings and hypotheses. There are 3 pages of references listed in back of research article. This paper is important because it summarizes theories and beliefs on ESP and psi, plus some of the research that have been conducted to date. It better helps understand what has been done. The psi model asserts that the earliest source of potential information comes from our non-local engagement with reality. This preconscious process happens very quickly when our conscious experiment flows along. Psi is assumed to be quite a normal process, which can quickly be deployed and quickly abandoned. Psi is normally invisible to conscious experiments. Broughton, 2006, presented research paper on 2-stage psi process. Presentation of information on other aspects of psi processes not previously reported upon. The findings and theories presented are a good general dissemination of information. The 2-stage psi model consists of a stage 1, how ESP gets into the system, which remains a mystery, and stage 2, which is thought to involve the normal cognitive processes. The research paper implies that if evolution has conferred upon humans the ability to make us use anomalous information, then it is likely to follow the pattern in which existing brain systems are adapted and enhanced to confer new advantages. The context of the 2-stage model of receptive psi would lead one to expect that evolution would have adopted existing brain systems to capitalize anomalous psi-based information required in order to serve survival goals. The memory systems in the brain have been identified that mediates anomalous information into conscious awareness. However, the issue of how the particular memory images are selected remain unaddressed, and further research needs to be conducted in this area. Rowe and Holt, 2007, conducted a study using 40 participants and generated virtual readings consisting of 24 statements, 8 from each of the 3 selection methods used in experiments. This was a confirmation study of an earlier study that showed positive results to the existence of psi. Results showed significant interaction was found between large liability and sender liability, replicating earlier effects. The study also showed that any PK sender effect is sensitive to situational variables and that these form complex interaction patterns. Researchers stated that goal and process orientation may be confounded by factors such as activity, passivity that co-vary with this variable. Brainwave patterns, Tucker, 2009, summarized research just being started by David Poppel and researchers at the University of California for the U.S. Army. They received a grant to study synthetic telepathy. The study is of electrical impulses in the brain and the impulses' effect related to telepathy. They plan to relate brainwave electrical impulses through thought patterns. Researchers hope to train subjects to think in code patterns like Morse code, with the code being picked up by sensors trained to focus on electromagnetic frequency in the brain and then send detection to a computer or resent to another sensor. Their theory is that motor memory gives a big signal and can be read or extracted. All mental thoughts create electrical signals. This would allow something like helmet to helmet telepathic communication, as quoted in the article. Moulton and Coslin, 2008, conducted experiments using neuroimaging, MRI, to monitor brain resonance patterns in trying to resolve the psi debate. The experiments were unique in that they actually monitored brainwave patterns. The findings showed no conclusive evidence and may provide the strongest evidence yet obtained against the existence of paranormal mental phenomena. MRI imaging is hard to read, and the psi influence may be using a different energy field, yet undiscovered, that relates to anomalous characteristics. MRIs may not accurately pick up the psi energy field. Begley, 2008, summarizes research studies providing information that could prove the existence of psi, telepathy, and ESP are related to brain electrical energy and can be measured with mind-reading dictionary and development of a mind-reading machine made possible. Mind-reading technology is advancing quickly. The author states that less than 3 years ago, it was a big deal when studies measured brain activity in people looking at gradients slanted either left or right, fMRI patterns in the visual cortex revealed which grading the volunteers saw. Research has broken the content barrier. Scientists at Carnegie Mellon University showed people drawing of 5 tools, hammer, drill, and the like, and 5 dwellings, castle, igloo, and asked them to think about each object's property, uses, and anything else that came to mind. Meanwhile, fMRI measured activity throughout each volunteer's brain. The activity patterns evoked by each object were so distinctive that the computer could tell with 78% accuracy when someone was thinking about a hammer and not, say, pliers. CMU neuroscientist Marcel Just thinks they can improve the accuracy, which reached 94% of one person, if people hold still in the fMRI and keep their thoughts from drifting to, say, lunch. The results must be replicated by independent labs before they can be accepted. This is the first time any mind-reading technique has achieved such specificity. Remarkably, the activity patterns from visual areas to movement area to region that encode abstract ideas like the feudal associations of a castle were eerily similar from one person to another. The report indicated there is a commonality in how different people's brains represent the same object. The report indicated that the more detailed the thought is, the more different these patterns get, because different people have different associations for an object or an idea. The CMU group is determining the brain patterns that encode abstract ideas, honesty, democracy, word and sentences, a big step towards a mind-reading dictionary. The article provides the most supportive explanation of the reality of telepathy and ESP related to brain electrical patterns. Sheldrake, 2003, wrote an article explaining his theory on explaining telepathy and other phenomena. Mental fields are rooted in the brain's energy fields. The example using magnets can best explain it. Magnetic fields around magnets are rooted in the magnets themselves, or just as the fields of transmission around mobile phones are rooted in the phones and their internal electrical activities. As magnetic fields extend around magnets, electromagnetic fields also extend around mobile phones. This energy can be related to mental fields extending around brains. Mental fields can be used to help explain telepathy. Also, the sense of being stared at and other widespread but unexplained abilities. Above all, mental fields underlie normal perception. They are an essential part of vision. The mind-mental energy related to vision may give off an energy field in the brain's processing of this information. Gansfeld experiments. Bim, Palmer, and Broughton, 2001. The Gansfeld database may be a victim of its own success. Gansfeld experiments have been around for a long time and have become a test standard for ESP testing. The article presents view that the Gansfeld procedure appears to provide replicable evidence for psi. The term psi denotes anomalous process of information transfer. Many studies have been conducted, and this article lists some of them. The Gansfeld procedure uses two participants as a sender and as a receiver. It is an established set of standard for telepathic studies. The article rated studies that use the Gansfeld procedure. The researchers suggested that future meta-analysis should distinguish standard replications from non-standard extensions of the Gansfeld procedure test should it become a victim of its own success. Rowe and Holt, 2006, used an automated Gansfeld computer system in their study. 40 trials were conducted. 23 trials involved senders and 17 did not involve senders. The receivers registered a 25% hit rate. This study indicated that the sender served some active role in the Gansfeld experiment ESP sessions. Results varied from a previous study. Generally, studies look at consistency of results of the various studies. 25% hit rates of receivers are exactly what would be expected by chance. Results were reported in table form. Rowe, Holt, and Simons, 2003, hypothesized three predictions in the study. They used Gansfeld GESP protocol. 40 participants using an automated Gansfeld computer system were tested. The trials used statements and video clips. An attempt was made to distinguish between senders and receivers that participated in the study. The role of sender has been inconsistent in other studies and the relationship of receiver and senders not taken into account. This study used a novel approach for assessing any sender influence. Covariation of performance with the receiver and the sender variables were evaluated. The receivers had 35% hit rate, which was above the mean chance expectation. The results were listed in table form. Conclusions. In the literature reviewed on the theme Reality of Telepathy, 20 pieces of literature related to the theme were researched. They consisted of telephone surveys, videotaped experiments, experiments on animals, experiments related to emails, evaluation of emotional effects, mothers' interactions with children, and results related to intimate relationships. The large majority of literature reviewed indicated a greater than chance possibility that telepathy may be involved in the results documented in the literature. Some literature indicated the findings were equal to that of chance. However, that literature was in the minority of reports researched. The literature reviewed on the theme Relationship to ESP looked at 4 sources of information regarding this theme. Areas were on the hypnotic effects, detecting unseen gazes, the mind machine, and manipulated expectations. Results showed that hypnosis and manipulated expectations could influence and enhance the effects in results searching for evidence of ESP. Computerized experiments may have fell short in getting results because tests were not conducted in a quiet laboratory setting and did not involve mental interactions with other people, but consisted of trying to guess outcomes. The theme psi phenomena had to do with research conducted on anomalous information or unexplained phenomena related to physical or biological mechanisms. 5 sources of information were reviewed, with one survey showing that the majority of psychological professors do not believe in telepathy or ESP. Professors in other fields had a high belief rate in its existence. This survey results may indicate why one of today's most leading researchers in the field is in the biology field and not psychological field. This literature review shows some indications that when you remove human interactions in the research study, the general results are equal to that of chance. The literature review has shown that research on the brain is only now getting started. This is a new area of study, and the literature review shows research is heading in that exciting direction. There is a good chance of success in developing a device that can read the brain's electrical energy fields and can indicate what the individual's mind is thinking. A mind reading dictionary is being developed that identifies different thoughts that result in brainwave patterns, found to be the same between different individuals. Researchers are also conducting experiments for the military. Sheldrake, a leading researcher, theorized that the mind gives off energy fields that extend around the brain. This energy field can be picked up and read by other people's minds. Other research in identifying the characteristics of this energy field needs to be conducted. Gansfeld experiments have become a standard of test for telepathy and ESP among psychologist researchers. The experiment relates to a standard computer test that is used for identifying areas of anomalous interactions. Some experiments show more than chance findings, and others show equal to chance findings. Taking the human interactions between individuals out of the research equation and relying upon computer to give and record responses may not be in the right direction to identifying the true nature of telepathy and ESP. In conclusion, more research should be conducted in areas related to the brain's energy fields. Efforts to identify this field, plus the mechanism that the mind uses in reading the energy waves given off by a person's brain, need to be conducted. The overall literature review gives an indication that the occurrence of telepathy and ESP may be more than just mere chance. Man is still in the dark ages related to research and understanding of this subject. This literature review compiles and places in one document an overview of the subject and indicates the direction that future research may result in the most success in determining how real is telepathy and ESP. References. All reference material was researched in Doan's library, research database only available to Doan students in 2009. For more up-to-date literature review, more recent sources need to be researched.